In this session, we are examining the critical strategies required to strengthen third-party contracts to protect your organization from external legal and cyber risks. In the modern business ecosystem, very few companies operate in complete isolation, as most rely on a vast network of service providers, software vendors, and cloud platforms. Typically, these external partnerships introduce new vulnerabilities that are outside of your direct technical control but remain within your sphere of legal responsibility. What this means is that the contract becomes the primary tool for extending your security standards beyond your own perimeter and into the environments of your partners. By mastering the legal language of vendor management, you can ensure that your organization's data remains protected regardless of where it physically resides or who is processing it. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Third-party risk management is best understood as the continuous process of assessing the security and legal posture of every vendor you choose to do business with. It involves a systematic evaluation of a partner's ability to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the assets you entrust to them. In practice, this assessment should happen long before a contract is ever signed, serving as a prerequisite for any formal business relationship. Typically, a mature risk management program uses a combination of questionnaires, independent audit reports, and deep dives into the vendor's own internal security policies. This foundational work allows the organization to make informed decisions about which partners are trustworthy and which pose too great a threat to the enterprise. A very helpful way to apply this concept is to practice by identifying which of your current vendors has direct or indirect access to your most sensitive customer information. You might find that a small marketing firm or a specialized software as a service provider holds a significant amount of personally identifiable information, PII. In practice, these smaller vendors often have fewer security resources than large corporations, making them attractive targets for malicious actors. Typically, once you have identified these high-risk connections, you can begin the work of verifying that the appropriate legal protections are in place. This mapping of data flows is a vital first step in prioritizing your contract reviews and ensuring that your most critical assets are properly shielded. A major pitfall frequently observed in the corporate world is the tendency to sign a vendor's standard, out-of-the-box contract without adding specific security and data protection clauses. Vendor-provided agreements are typically written to protect the vendor's interests, often limiting their liability and providing very few guarantees regarding the security of your data. In practice, accepting these terms as is leaves your organization with very little legal recourse if a breach occurs at the vendor's facility. Typically, a professional governance practitioner will negotiate the inclusion of custom language that mandates specific technical controls and reporting requirements. What this means is that you must be prepared to advocate for your organization's security needs during the procurement and legal review process. You can achieve a significant and immediate quick win by creating a standardized security addendum that you can attach to all new and renewing contracts. This document, often called a Data Protection Addendum, DPA, establishes a baseline of security expectations that every partner must meet, such as mandatory encryption and background checks for their staff. In practice, having a pre-approved template saves an immense amount of time for the legal team and ensures that your security standards are applied consistently across the entire supply chain. Typically, vendors are more likely to accept these terms when they are presented as a standard, non-negotiable part of your business requirements. This simple administrative tool ensures that no vendor relationship begins without a clear and enforceable set of security rules. Visualize a professional contract that clearly and unambiguously states that the vendor is fully liable for any data breach or security incident that they cause through negligence. This type of liability clause is essential for ensuring that the financial burden of a breach stays with the party that was responsible for the failure. In practice, without this language, your organization might be forced to pay for forensic investigations, legal fees, and customer notifications resulting from a partner's mistake. Typically, These negotiations involve a careful balance between the vendor's desire to limit risk and your organization's need for total protection. What this means is that the contract acts as a financial insurance policy that reinforces the importance of the vendor's security obligations. In the field of vendor management, we use the term right to audit to describe a specific contract clause that allows your organization to inspect a vendor's security practices and facilities. This clause provides you with the legal authority to verify that the vendor is actually doing what they promised in the contract, such as maintaining a secure data center. In practice, an audit might involve reviewing the vendor's latest system and organization controls, SOC, to report, or even conducting an on-site visit by your own security team. Typically, the mere presence of this clause acts as a powerful deterrent against vendor complacency and ensures that the partnership remains transparent and accountable. This right to verify is what transforms a contract from a passive document into an active oversight tool. Reviewing the termination clause of an agreement is a critical task that ensures you can safely and completely get your data back if the business relationship ever ends. A well-written clause should specify the format in which the data will be returned and mandate the certified destruction of any remaining copies held by the vendor. In practice, you do not want to find yourself in a situation where a vendor holds your data hostage or continues to store sensitive files long after the contract has expired. Typically, this section should also outline the transition period during which the vendor must continue to provide support while you move to a new provider. This exit strategy is a foundational part of maintaining the long-term integrity and availability of your organizational information. Imagine a challenging scenario where a subcontractor hired by your primary vendor loses your sensitive data, and you discover you have no legal recourse against them because of a weak contract. This often happens when the prime contract fails to flow down security requirements to the vendor's own partners and suppliers. In practice, your agreement should explicitly state that the vendor is responsible for the actions of any subcontractors they choose to use for your project. Typically, this ensures that the same level of protection applies at every link in the supply chain, regardless of how many companies are involved. What this means is that you are building a continuous chain of legal accountability that protects your data at every single stop in its journey. It is vital to always remember the fundamental legal principle that your organization remains ultimately responsible for the protection of data even when it is stored or processed by a third party. While you can transfer the operational task of managing a server, you can never fully transfer the legal and regulatory duty to protect the privacy of your customers. In practice, if a vendor fails, it is your organization's name that will appear in the news headlines, and it is your leadership that will be questioned by the regulators. Typically, this reality is what justifies the time and expense spent on rigorous vendor due diligence and contract negotiation. This commitment to ultimate accountability is what defines a truly professional and mature approach to information governance. In this lesson, we have discussed the essential elements of a secure third-party contract, including the role of liability limits and the implementation of mandatory security standards. By integrating these requirements into your procurement process, you are building a more resilient organization that is better prepared for the complexities of the modern digital economy. Typically, the most successful partnerships are those where both parties have a clear and mutual understanding of their security and legal obligations from day one. In practice, a strong contract does not just protect you from failure. It provides the structure necessary for a long-term and productive business relationship. This integrated approach to contracting is a key differentiator for the modern security and compliance professional. A highly effective technique for managing a large number of vendors is to use a tiered approach to risk by focusing your most stringent contract requirements on your high-risk partners. It is often impractical to apply the same level of scrutiny to a local catering company as you would to a global cloud storage provider that holds all your financial records. In practice, you should categorize your vendors based on the type of data they access and the criticality of the service they provide to the business. Typically, your Tier 1 vendors will receive the most intense legal reviews and frequent audits, while Tier 3 vendors may only need to agree to a basic set of terms. This risk-based allocation of effort ensures that your limited resources are always focused where they can provide the most protection. Strong and well-negotiated contracts act as a critical layer of defense in a professional world where an increasing number of major data breaches occur through third-party vendors. By establishing clear expectations and consequences, you are effectively creating a legal perimeter that complements your technical security controls. In practice, this perimeter protects the organization from the financial, legal, and reputational fallout that follows a partner's failure. Typically, the presence of these contracts is also a key requirement for obtaining cyber insurance and meeting the demands of high-level government regulations. What this means is that your work in the legal domain is just as important to the company's safety as the work being done in the Network Operations Center. This concludes our exploration of how to strengthen third-party contracts and manage the unique legal and cyber exposures introduced by external vendors. We have discussed the importance of security addendums, the right to audit, and the necessity of maintaining ultimate accountability for your organization's data. A warm and very practical next step for your own professional growth is to go out today and find one existing vendor contract within your department to check for a security clause. As you read it, ask yourself if the language is clear, mandatory, and provides your organization with the protection it needs in a real-world incident. Moving forward with this critical, I will help you ensure that your organization's partnerships are built on a foundation of security and trust.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.